I have firsthand experience of having been through some challenging situations, particularly when I was 17. I was raped by a man 28 years older than me, and my parents didn't believe me and put me through an experience of a sentence because of religious beliefs, which I won't go into. My TED Talk does cover some of it. But I was born in Paso Robles, California, lived in California for the first 20 years of my life, and then relocated here to Texas. And I've been here for the last 27 years and have established 3 companies. Never had a plan to have 3 companies, but through a process of events, 27, I launched the first one. And then in 2016, launched my second. In 2018, launched my third. So I am passionate about living intentionally, creating the life that you want. And I believe that those things can only happen when we are in tune to our core values and we live them and we breathe them and we be them. So what does that look like as a woman? Well, you're going to face challenges in a entrepreneurship role because as of now, things aren't always equal. And when you have other foundations like I have had and experienced of being raped or things that put you in positions where you may be uncomfortable or you may feel challenged even deeper because people see you as weaker or been easy to take advantage of. So learning to have the strength and to walk in your values and live them and breathe them, be them is not an easy quest, especially in a corporate world where to succeed means that you put yourself down and you're a martyr. And you give beyond capacity, you overgive, you become a workaholic, you work through lunches, you take on more than you can to prove you can do it, because as a woman, you want to be treated as equal. So you want to compete in qualifying for the position. And I find that that causes us as women to live more stressed. And that's something I have really been focusing on in my life because I did just that. I worked really hard. I was very successful, but I had a impact of those choices physically, creating additional health issues. I currently deal with Lyme disease and mold toxicity illness, and it impacts my ability to work as much as I want to. But creating the life that you want happens when we take a step back, take a deep breath, and we look at what are our values and how are we living in alignment to those, and what is success and when is enough enough. So, you know, what are your goals? Is it to be a millionaire? Is it to have a 6-figure income? Is it to create a business and be able to sell it, or to provide work for other people who work for you as a team, or to be a global company? I think that the more that we look at really what do we define as success, and our inner world creates our outer world, we get what we focus on. So what is it that we really want in our lives, and how are we going to create that? Are we going to create it in stress? Or are we going to create it in peace? Are we going to create it in opposition or teamwork? And I think that there's a lot as women we bring to the table to help transition the workplace and entrepreneurship journey to be able to make it an equal space for men and women.
Wow, I agree completely. For the past 35 years, I've worked with probably 90% of my clients have been women, Misty. And I want to say that your experience and overcoming what you've done is amazing. And truly an inspiration for all other women entrepreneurs as well. As you've climbed and built these businesses, what would you say are some of the key elements that that women should look for as they're building that part of their lives?
Well, I think it starts with knowing their foundation of non-negotiables, deal breakers.
Yeah. Right.
Because if we don't have those set, it's going to be very hard to live within the capacity of what we can bring to the table and not be overextended. And when we become overextended, then you're opening the door for other things to come in, like resentment, frustration. When you know what's important to you and what you have to thrive and be successful, then you look for an environment that's going to help cultivate that. That doesn't mean that it exists at the beginning, but just like any relationship, whether it's with friends or with dating or anything else, the more you understand them and their personality style, their love languages, their needs, their wants, how they communicate, and we adapt to each other. See, do we have the capacity to grow? Is there mutual respect? Is there understanding that this is going to take some work for it to work for them and to work for me? And as women, we often don't say no. So we take anything on because we want to be that support. We want that administrative role. We want that CEO or president role, vice president, whatever it is, or we want to be that collaborating strategic business partner or consultant. And we want the opportunity, whether it's for recognition or whether it's to further our career or for compensation. But is it truly in alignment with the values that I have, where I want to spend my time, what I want to be involved in, how I want to be known? Is this a company that I believe truly has a brand behind them that supports and validates women? It's easy for us to put something to a front, but we don't live it, breathe, and be it. We can have a slogan on the wall. It's a statement, but does the company really execute that? And you only get that by doing research and having courageous conversations.
Right. So I've had some interesting experiences with core values as well in my career. So has there been a specific instance that you can point to that would be an example for other women where you've had to choose your values versus the values of a company, for example?
Sure. I had a client in 2017 that wanted to obtain a $200,000 line of credit for he needed it because of a lawsuit with a nurse practitioner against his firm. It was a pediatric clinic. And he felt that if the bank, a very large bank known, I guess I could name it, Chase Bank, if they were to see his P&L and balance sheet, they probably would not approve him. So what he did was asked me to produce financial reports, which I did, and then he edited them and removed some liabilities on the balance sheet. But he was uneducated in the idea to know that the top half of the balance sheet and the bottom half of the balance sheet have to match in assets and liabilities.
Right.
So the totals did not match. Okay. He submitted those through a secure link to Chase Bank. Chase Bank sent him an email back and, clearly disclosing there's a problem. And he came to me and he knew he was going to have to disclose himself to me. And so he came to me and he's like, this is what I submitted. And this is, Chase Bank's response. I need to come clean and tell you what I did. And that was a challenge for me in the moment to live and breathe my core values. So I approached it with curiosity. Can you explain to me why you removed these? And what was your goal? What were you trying to achieve? When you signed on that loan document said that you attest that these are true and correct. How can you sign that and do this? Like I did, had a courageous conversation and then waited a week before I came back and said, I would like to have a conversation about the situation that happened last week. Because I've told you in the 6-7 years we worked together that honesty and integrity are my core values. And I've told you, if you want to cheat, you want to lie, because there were some other incidents that had happened, not this extreme, okay? But he had produced like a fax cover sheet to submit a document that never went, right? Showing that it actually had by copying 2 documents together. There were little things that had happened. It wasn't my work, but I told him, if you ever touch my work, you do something like that, this relationship's over. Well, this is what he did. He touched my work. And I have credentials. I can be held accountable for my financial statements. And so I approached him and said, I'm going to help you finish out these tasks, but we're going to need to terminate our relationship. And his question to me was, why now? Because he had done a few of these little things along the way, right? So even though he knew my core values, because I didn't at the very first one, and I'm not saying you should have, I believe there's an approach of working with somebody and having grace and understanding, right? And bringing them to, look, this is a deal breaker for me. This bothers me. This is out of integrity. But ultimately, we had just done a QuickBooks update the week before this. So I was able to use that with Chase Bank. We just apologized. We had a corrupted file. Our IT people got into the server. They fixed it, which is all true. We had corruption, but it wasn't related to that, right? But it was still true. I wrote a letter on my behalf because my integrity is on the line. I have other clients besides this client. But that gig was anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 a month. So it was a huge loss of revenue as their business consultant and outsourced practice administrator. However, when you step back and you go, these are my core values and I will not lie. I will not cheat. These are non-negotiables for me. You have to be willing, no matter the consequences, to proceed in that space and make those tough decisions. And they will come at a time that doesn't feel convenient.
Absolutely. um, that's one of the, I think, the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face, and the fact that you've done that, faced that, lived your core values, is a testament to your strength, and the example that you provide to all entrepreneurs, women and men. And I want to thank you for that, not only for the story, but for living that life that you currently live.
Yeah,
What?
and you have to be open to the fact that we're not always going to do it perfect. We were not always going to have the best, courageous conversation. We might be rude, harsh, condescending, judgmental, critical. They might feel shame, regret, fear, guilt, and how we respond to that and how we treat them through that process is a growth opportunity for us. So not only to face your fear of confronting somebody with the truth, but being able to work on the back end about what it stirs up inside of you
Mhm.
and what you really want to create with that relationship. And having a vision of how you want to begin it and how you want to end it will help you live it, breathe it, be it.
Yeah, I'm curious. What were your feelings before and during and after? How did you experience that activity?
Well, before, I mean, I never dreamed he would do something like that. Like, we
Right.
were in a tough financial position. The legal battles were extensive. The fraud that this nurse practitioner had done, she had requested staff to provide medical records and leave them behind the building. So the HIPAA violations, we had to go
Oh my
through a
gosh.
whole OIG audit. The amount that it triggered in the practice, like, her goal was to shut him down, right? And his goal was like, no matter what, I'm not shutting down. I've been through hell before in my business. And so out of fear, I knew out of fear was why he did what he did. And that
Hmm.
was what I led into when he was revealing what his choices were. I said, can you trust
Mm.
that and that you will pull through this and you will get the resources you need if you are transparent and honest. But if you lie, you're doing the same thing she's doing.
Right.
And so my feelings, that was hard. That was not easy to do, to confront somebody that you've worked with for several years and is a significant part of your portfolio of client base, right?
Hmm.
I have a lot of clients that there's times when I'm doing high-end consulting gigs, I have a lot of focused energy put towards a handful of clients. And that was one of those things where I usually worked on site 2 to 3 days a week, and besides the work I did remotely. So my feelings were, I've covered this ahead of time with you, what my core values are. I can't believe that you're really violating them. And then it's okay, I have to accept. Awareness is first. Second
Hmm.
step is I have to accept that this is happening. And then what is inside of me, the values that I want to hold, the choices I want to make, and the desired action to live and breathe and be those things that I've already set. I can't change what's happened, but I can make it worse or I can make it better. I wasn't sure how to deal with it. And that's one reason I gave myself time to figure out how to respond. One, I wanted to dissolve the problem and the
Hmm.
emergency need to apply for funding. But I also, on the back end, wanted to have a courageous conversation to talk about where this relationship was going to go now that had been violated, that trust had been violated. Because I said, how can I trust that you aren't doing other things that are violating my work and my
Hmm.
integrity? I have a name in the industry. I'm very well known. No, I don't know this Chase banker, but my company has an EIN. My company can be flagged. Like,
Right.
I need to protect that, and this is not something I can continue. Sorry, I can't.
Right. So, and now that you've gone through that process, right? What feelings do you have that you were able to stand up and live according to those core values? What message would you tell everybody else about that feeling subsequently?
Well, you have a lot more peace, and it reduces the stress, because those situations are very, very stressful, and you have to have your own steps to walk through. How do I create and the dis-ease I feel inside of me, right? How do
Hmm.
I, the turmoil, the frustration, the
Hmm.
terrified feelings, the anger, what is my way to work through this? Because we're all human. I could be put in a situation tomorrow where I feel I have no opportunities and my fear is so great that I lie and I cheat. We are all capable of the same thing. So I have to take myself back to my own humanity and that I'm not better than he is. I just simply remind myself of my foundation and my core values, and that these are deal breakers for me, and they are hardcore deal breakers. And that means I have to make some really tough decisions. Andy Stanley has a quote that says, being a leader doesn't mean you always know what to do, but being a leader means you will do what you need to do.
Ooh, and you live that. You live that. Not only it's not just a statement. It's not just a quote. It's a way of life, right?
Well, and also realize each of these things that you go through, prior experiences you had in an SBA loan application, you got denied. You can put yourself in, well, it didn't happen to me, but I'm using it as an example within a
Sure.
client. You can put yourself in their shoes and go, this is the tension they were feeling. This is the frustration, and their fear is looming larger than their core values. And we all can do that. You can call it a scarcity mindset. You can call it a limiting belief. At the core, we're all human. We all have those emotions. And the more that I can put myself in their shoes and have curiosity, not why did you do that, but why did you do that? Why didn't you contact me and go, is there a way to adjust the balance sheet so all these debts don't show? Like, can we approve anything? Is there legally, rightfully? Like, have that preemptive conversation instead of just taking matters into your own hands and editing a PDF. Like, that's not going to solve anything. And of course, then I educated him. I wasn't so condescending and rude, like, you dumbass. You didn't know the balance sheet has to be in balance, both in the assets and the liabilities, and the bottom line net of the business has to all balance out. But I educated him once I did. I said, see here, and I should hear, can you pull up the reports that I sent you? And so he did. And I said, do you see these numbers? Do you see how they reflect each other? And do you see how the bottom line has to match? So when you edited things out, you needed to adjust those numbers, and you did it. And so therefore, this is why they say the reports are wrong.
Yeah. So you really kind of come from a position of compassionate curiosity when somebody abridges or comes up against your values. And I think that's one of the key points that I'm discerning from what you're saying. There's a difference between talking down at somebody because they violated those and being curious and compassionate about where they come from so that you can help them, even though you know that this is going to be the end of the relationship.
Yeah, and that's been something I've had to learn. I didn't start there. I was raised in a very religious cult and a very abusive environment. So harshness, criticalness, hurry up, get it done. You're not doing it fast enough. You're not good enough. Why did you do that? But that kind of attitude just brings on more guilt to people and shame. And even if they've made a mistake, they don't need that layer to have to deal with also. There's one thing to say what you did was inappropriate versus who you are is a bad person and you're inappropriate. Those are two different things. They're still worthy of love and affection. They're still worthy of everything. They are still a good person. They just made a bad choice. And I was not made to feel that in my childhood. I was a bad person. I was used goods. I've been raped. I'm this. And so I've learned from various people. One of my favorite leaders is Gabor Mate. He's a trauma expert, and he's the one that talks about having that curiosity and compassion. And when I said harshly, why did you do that versus why did you do that? That came from him because he models it well on his interviews we tend to go, why did you do that?
Right.
Instead of, why did you do that? It's the same question. It's just like, but we feel defensive. We feel attacked. We feel being cornered with no way out, no opportunity to make a decision based on our core values and integrity. And we want those people to like us. So we have our own transparency back. Like, can we justify it or do we hold to truth? And holding to truth is not going to be easy many, many times. But holding to truth and our core values inside brings life and it brings peace. And we all thrive in a calm environment. We all grow when we are dealt with compassion. When we are treated with harshness, we create a gap and a wedge between us. And it's harder. It's an uphill battle to overcome. So learning to relate to the other person with kindness. It doesn't mean you're not angry. It doesn't mean you're not upset. You're disappointed. But owning, like, I am very disappointed you did this. I am hurt after 6 years, almost 7 years of working together that you made this choice. I am infuriated that my company is now on the radar with Chase Bank. Like, those things, those are hard to say. They take courage. But anything that we're going to do and excel at is going to require courage. And so as women, whether it's a man or a woman sitting across from you, whether it's your child or your friend, or it's a police officer or a president of the United States, you need to be able to have that ability to discuss those things that hurt, the pain inside, without attacking, without criticizing, and draw them into kindness and compassion.
Wow, that's truly amazing, Misty. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. These are hard conversations to have, and the fact that you've lived them and can actually provide that as advice and counsel for all the listeners today. I really appreciate your time and energy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, JB. And I assume everybody knows they'll get the 7 steps to creating your peace, pause for inner wealth.
Well, yep, that's what we want to do, is make sure that we can identify how people can get in touch with you, any types of information that we can get. Obviously, in our Facebook group, we'll have a lot of that information. But if there's anything specific that you'd want to tell the audience, please feel free. Now's the time.
Well, they can connect with me on any social media site through Misty W. Gilbert. I'm most active with conversations on Facebook, but I love meeting new people and having organic conversations. And I want to encourage, support, and inspire people to create the life that they want, to live intentionally from their core values. This will create peace and freedom.
Awesome. Thank you.